Hey guys, welcome to a new video. Like, comment and subscribe if you enjoy. Without any further interruptions, enjoy the what if. Let's just start off by saying, I'm really not comfortable leaving my back to a bunch of heroes, even more so some of which want to kill me so that Orochi can't get me. Naruto was surrounded by several of the strongest heroes around, the ones who would be helping him fight against Orochimaru. While they were all a part of the top 10 in terms of popularity, the top 10 was never about who the top 10 strongest heroes were. It was about who the top 10 heroes were who did the job the best, and these 5 were the ones who were actually combat heroes among the top 10. It's the quickest and easiest solution, Endeavor pointed out as he stood across from Naruto, who was keeping a wary eye on him. The best fighters among the top 10. All Might, Endeavor. Best Genist, Mirko, Yukio. You know, this would be a good chance to redeem yourself. Helping us take down a dangerous criminal would be a good way for you to make amends for your crimes and get an official pardon. Best Genist pointed out to Naruto, who just gave a cocky laugh. Yep, because I care about a clean record. Anyway, you're assuming any of you live after the fight. The trap is already set, now we've just got to wait for Orochimaru to show up. Naruto stated as he glanced over at All Might, who had revealed his true form to the other heroes for the pure sake of keeping himself from overusing his powers. Anyway, when you all fail, I've got a backup plan anyway. Pop should be here soon with my backup plan, Naruto stated as he looked at his watch. According to the plan, Popstep was going to be meeting with a friend of hers, and she would be bringing something that would be very important to the backup plan. You're getting an innocent involved? All Might asked with a concerned look. Mirko actually coughed into her hand, since she actually kind of knew who Naruto was talking about, having seen the girl before. Though, that situation had nothing to do with Naruto, and she was just recently remembering that situation. Endeavor walked menacingly over to Naruto, gripping his fists tightly as fires started to form on them. Endeavor is losing his temper, Yukio thought, but she didn't need to even try and stop Endeavor because a pink-haired girl that she also recognized from a party from a while back, hopped into the window awkwardly. She blinked, and everyone else did as well, when the girl came into the room carrying a case. Kurama, I've got the stuff you wanted, a friend of mine talked to. Oh. Popstep looked around and saw that she was the center of attention. She looked towards Naruto, and she blinked and tilted her head. You know, this stuff is really dangerous. I don't know what you need it for, but it won't end up good. Popstep warned him, but he took the case from her anyway with a shrug of her shoulders. Not for me. Anyway, you better go. If you stay much longer, you might get caught up in some really nasty stuff. Naruto warned her with a wave of his hand. She nodded and jumped away. Everyone looked at Naruto when he started to open the case, only for him to look at each of them in turn. He kept the case closed, since he didn't want any of them to see what he was planning apparently. You know, I'm sure you can trust your teammates. We're really not a team though, I'm a villain working with you for my own benefit. And to save lives, All Might added in when Naruto denied working with them for the reason of being heroic. He was sure that Naruto was only doing this for his own reasons as well, but to deny that Naruto was still teaming up with them either way would be pointless in the long run. The news had already reported that he and Naruto had teamed up before against his master. Well, look away. What I'm about to do isn't exactly pleasant to look at, and if Orochi takes over your bodies, then you cannot know my plan, and him know about it because of you. Naruto demanded when he saw nobody had taken their eyes off of him. He wouldn't get into a heroics argument with All Might. The guy seemed to be on the line of thought that he would become a hero after all of this was over with. Endeavor was the first to look away, and he did it spitefully, since he understood that Naruto had a point. He had seen Orochimaru gain more power in person, and he knew that fighting a man who could use his stolen quirks even better than the people he stole them with, was a serious threat. He didn't have to like it. This isn't some suicide plan, is it? Best Genist asked with a furrowed brow. It better not be. You don't die until I say you do, and until after I've caught you myself at the very least. Mirko looked at him with a cocky grin. Her skin had a little less color, despite the attitude that she was showing. My plan is more likely to kill one of you, then it is to kill me, a sacrifice I'm willing to make. Naruto deadpanned. They were all only looking away from him for a few seconds, but when they turned around, the case was open and empty. How do you know that Orochimaru is going to come here? Yukio questioned Naruto, since this location was his idea. It was an old, abandoned school that was scheduled to be destroyed and replaced with a hero agency. The building was strong enough to handle a bit of damage without collapsing, but her quirk wasn't good for indoor fighting. Naruto shrugged. He picked the building, but it was All Might who made a short TV appearance and made the challenge to Orochimaru public. He also made an announcement that this general area needed to be evacuated of all civilians and even all heroes unrelated to this team of heroes. He's a bastard, but he is a bastard with style. He wants this to be dramatic, so he won't turn down a direct challenge, right Orochimaru? Naruto leaned up against the wall, and he looked at the broken vent where a white snake came out of, and it opened its mouth impossibly wide, to allow Orochimaru to come out of it. Orochimaru, to the heroes, appeared out of nowhere. Endeavor didn't hesitate even for a moment to spew a narrow, but far hotter than normal, stream of flames out of his hands at the white snake. Orochimaru put his hand out, and beams of wood grew out of it, and formed at an angle. The flames traveled down the side of the wood, burning the wood as it did, and missed Orochimaru completely as they melted a large hole in the wall next to Naruto. Kamui Wood's quirk. Yukio clenched her fists when she saw Orochimaru use the exact same quirk, in nearly the exact same way, as the hero who he had taken. So, Kurama-kun, how long have you known I was here? Orochimaru questioned Naruto as he was restrained by the fibers of his own clothes, moving on their own. Best Jeanist using his quirk to control them, and wrap them tightly around Orochimaru. He only had eyes for Naruto though as he dodged a punch from a muscled-out All Might, who destroyed the wall next to Orochimaru. He cut the fibers restraining him with a sharp blade of bone that grew out of his shoulder. He didn't even look at the heroes yet. Snakes came out of the bottoms of his pants, and started to scatter across the room, traveling towards all of the heroes. Mirko kicked the door down, grabbing it and throwing it at the snake crawling at her. Yukio didn't have anything she could do but dodge the snake when it snapped at her, while Endeavor burned the snake to a crisp. All Might dodged the snakes as he tried to land a hit on Orochimaru, who was reading his punches. You've grown weaker Toshinori, but then again, I don't have your master in me anymore, so I guess your punches are rather dangerous for me. Orochimaru mused, taking notice of the only real threat among the fighter heroes in the room. Each of the others were little more than backup for All Might and Kurama in front of him. They were the only ones with any chance of taking him in the coming fight. He glanced at Naruto, who had yet to make a move. Poison him, Kurama, Mirko shouted as the snake she destroyed turned into 3 snakes, splitting itself and becoming a greater threat to her. The snakes grew in size as well. Flipping, she knocked down parts of the ceiling and crushed the multiplying snakes underneath them. She was pushed back by All Might's next punch, which released a shockwave that tossed the snakes in the room against the walls, and pushed back all of the heroes. All Might was visibly angry. Ooh, that is a scary face. Better just turn yourself in, Orochi-chan. This isn't going to end well for you, since you've fallen right into our trap. There are no hostages for you to use here, and we can all fight at full strength in this place, except Yukio, but she totally sucks anyway. Naruto explained to Orochimaru as a snake finally targeted him. Out of his pocket, he pulled out a knife and cut the snake's head off, before he stomped on the body as he charged towards Orochimaru. He jumped on top of All Might's shoulder and was tossed towards Orochimaru by the older man, reaching his hand out towards Orochimaru's face. Just one tough. Hey, that wasn't nice. Yukio defended herself from snakes, explaining how a single touch from Kurama was fatal, before she realized that he had just insulted her. Kurama, now isn't the time for witty banter, Mirko added as she jumped over the snakes and hopped towards Endeavor, kicking a large snake that burst out of the wall in the head. He burnt the remains of all the snakes on the floor to crisps, preventing all of them from spawning more snakes, the heroes all now free to target Orochimaru. Naruto's reach fell short when Orochimaru placed his foot forward, and a wall of ice grew between Naruto and him. Surely, Kurama, you don't think I wasn't aware of this trap. But trap or not, the end result doesn't change. You 6 vs me. Well, even with Nana Shimura among my body count, my battle strength has only been lowered by 1/3 of my total strength. I've more than enough strength to kill the 5 heroes here, and take you." Orochimaru spoke with absolute and utter certainty in his voice. He placed his hands together, forming a double-handed gun with them, and wind force gathered at the tips of his fingers. "After all, it is I who has mastered all elemental quirks. I have mastered all strength, speed, and transformation quirks." Orochimaru grabbed with amusement. He shattered his own ice wall, and All Might was on the front of the battle, throwing a punch strong enough to overpower the wind force. His target was gone though. "Too bad for you, I'm mastered a skill that doesn't use a quirk." "What?" Orochimaru blinked in surprise. He wasn't the only one either, when a knife pierced through his shoulder. Naruto stood behind Orochimaru, with a grin showing under his mask as he twisted the knife deeper into Orochimaru. "I see, you erased your breath, emptied your mind, and got rid yourself of the ability to be sensed. A very dangerous skill indeed." Orochimaru wasn't above praise as well as mocking his opponents. "Grab him, use your poison Kurama. Do it already, you little bastard." Endeavor shouted out as he created a spear of flames in his hand and took aim at Orochimaru. Best Jeanist saw his chance. Parts of Orochimaru's clothes, the fibers in them, went wild as they sunk into the knife wound and stitched the wound open, to prevent it from healing. Endeavor threw his spear after taking a step even further back. All Might punched the spear when Orochimaru's face cracked, and a different person appeared underneath it. He destroyed Endeavor's attack, as the Orochimaru they were facing was revealed to be a different person. "Oh, don't want to attack a fake. Like I said, this trap was already a failure. A small amount of research, and a little bit of distraction, and I already managed to take over the body of one of the heroes in this room." A different man, being controlled by Orochimaru, stated with a neutral look as everyone in the room seemed shocked. One of them was Orochimaru. "Yukio, you've barely done anything. You're Orochimaru." Mirko wasted no time in figuring out that the person who had done the least amount of fighting was the person who had been Orochimaru this entire time. She jumped across the room, absolutely destroying the wall behind her by the force of her jump, and slammed her fist into Yukio's face at full force. Yukio, with a broken nose, grabbed Mirko's fist and flipped her over her shoulder, slamming Mirko into an old desk, shattering it with her body. "Mirko, calm yourself," Yukio shouted, before parts of her clothing wrapped around her, the fibers stretching out and binding her arms behind her back. Unable to move even a little, she looked towards to Best Jeanist. Her method aside, Endeavor tried to kill the fake Orochimaru, something in character for him. All Might instantly recognized a threat to an innocent, and went to stop it. Mirko moved to attack based purely on her own feelings, with no regards to rational thought. Her gut instinct is crude, but she does point her finger at the only person who could possibly be Orochimaru, you. Best Jeanist explained what he had quickly deduced with the facts that he knew about all of the people in the room. "What about Kurama? I'm his target. If he could have stolen my body, this entire charade would be pointless. I'm the only person Orochi-chan can't be." Naruto pointed out that him getting his body stolen was not only the worst-case scenario, but it was also something that would have made Orochimaru coming to the trap completely pointless from Orochimaru's point of view. "People don't take bait when they already caught the fishy," Naruto added in as he looked at the wounded man, as All Might undid Best Jeanist's stitching to allow the wound to quickly repair itself. All Might pulled out a needle, and stabbed the man with it, with snakes coming out of his mouth and dying on the floor around him. "I apologize Kurama, but I had the doctors take my master's blood, and use it to create a poison strong enough to kill the snakes, but not a human." All Might apologized to Naruto softly as he looked down at the man who was convulsing on the ground. It was something he did, even though he promised Naruto not to. Having a way to free Orochimaru's victims was more important than keeping his promise at a time like this. He hoped that Naruto would understand. "I'm not Orochimaru, it's Endeavor. Orochimaru has Endeavor's memories, so of course he wouldn't hesitate to kill his own victims with Endeavor's quirk. Since it's something Endeavor would do, he could easily get away with it." Yukio shouted as she spun her head towards Endeavor, who seemed to only grow more pissed when the spotlight was shined down on him. "Not good. Calm down. We have to calmly figure out which one of us is actually Orochimaru," Best Jeanist stated, since Yukio was defending herself in an overly emotional way. Best Jeanist looked towards Endeavor anyway though. Emotional, but she's not wrong. You're now a suspect, you have a track record of being overly violent with your enemies. Orochimaru with your body and memories, would be able to mask his own evil deeds very well. Best Jeanist pointed out as he tried to wrap up Endeavor. Endeavor burnt the fibers to cinders the second they tried to wrap around him, glaring darkly at Best Jeanist when he did so. I would have killed myself before letting Orochimaru take my body. I say it's you Best Jeanist, you're quick to point out and restrain everybody else. What is to say Orochimaru isn't using your cool head and intelligence to make you seem like the real deal? Endeavor started to stomp towards Best Jeanist, his fists catching fire with heat so intense everyone in the room could feel it. All Might shifted around nervously. Orochimaru, by revealing this, was playing a mind game. Trusted comrades, in an instant, no longer trusted anyone amongst themselves anymore. Knowing that Orochimaru could be anyone in the room, and believably act like that as well, meant that nobody could afford to act together anymore. My quirk is weak, it's only my intelligence and training that made my quirk useful. Orochimaru wouldn't want my body. Bullshit. If this bastard gets your memories and body, then he doesn't have to train to use your quirk, and he can use it as well as you. That means that you don't have a good reason not to be Orochimaru either. Mirko shouted as she pointed at Best Jeanist. Naruto grinned. Hey, Orochi-chan, and heroes here, you can play these mind games all you want, but you do know that the real Kurama isn't even among us, right? Naruto called out to everyone in the room. What? Everyone asked. No, seriously, everyone asked that question in complete unison as they looked towards the so-called Kurama. Naruto's body started to melt into a white sludge, Himiko Toga's face being the first thing to be revealed as the sludge landed on the floor. She was completely naked moments later, her hands covering her breasts and lower region as her disguise completely melted away. She was giving a demented grin as she looked all around the room. That's righty. Kurama-chan asked me to come here and use the last of his blood that I had, to transform into a copy of him. Oh. I'm naked, but my phone is over here. Toga scurried towards the old teacher's desk, and she pulled her hidden phone out of the desk. She ducked down below the desk so that nobody could see her naked body anymore, and made a phone call. Calling Kurama. He tricked all of us, that villain. Endeavor whispered in barely restrained rage. They were protecting him, and he tricked them all. Hey Orochi-chan, guess somehow Toga was put into a situation where she revealed herself. Whoops, sorry heroes, did I never mention that I wasn't going to actually go along with any of your plan? Yeah, turns out I don't trust more than half of you to not backstab me. Naruto's voice, the real Naruto, spoke through the phone. Grr, admittedly, I planned on capturing him when this was over with. I wanted to use this as a chance to get him to drop his guard, and get him after we got Orochimaru. Best Jeanist spoke truthfully, understanding where Kurama was coming from. Seeing as multiple of them, including the growling Endeavor and the frowning Yukio, who seemed to be experiencing a silent fury at the moment, had all planned on taking both him and Orochimaru down, Kurama's choice was a well-thought one. You bastard, we're heroes, I hate working together with people, and even I was going to let Kurama go after this. Mirko seemed shocked and disdainful of everyone in the room. All Might, you too. Mirko looked over at All Might, who was showing shame on his face. Yes, but only because Kurama's potential as a hero, if he were to get outed as a villain, he would have no choice but to become a hero to avoid harsh penalties. It was both for his good, and everyone else as well. All Might as well admitted to planning on capturing Naruto when all was said and done. Naruto was young, he could still become a hero by law. How does it feel, Orochimaru? I figured you were a sly little bitch of a snake, and of course, what you didn't know is that my master knew he was going to die when he told us your weaknesses. The entire time he was talking to us, and looking at those naked women, he was sending me a message. Did you know that one of those women had a telepathy quirk? What? Mirko was confused now. When did this happen? Jiraiya had told them everything he knew. When could he have sent a unique message to Naruto? On the false bottom glass of the hot springs, that woman was using her hands to subtly show me numbers, and she used her ass to write the kanji form of a name. That night, I did a little bit of code cracking. You see, my master and I have a secret code using words and lines from his books. He sent me a message that you were aware of our plans and traps, so while everyone else was getting ready to trap you, thinking you were arrogant enough to throw yourself into a trap, I made a different plan. How does it feel, Orochi-chan? How does it feel knowing that you were outsmarted by the #1 villain, and your clumsy, goofy, weak and quirkless old teammate? Naruto's taunting voice could be heard on the speakerphone auction throughout the entire room, with everyone having a different reaction. Quote. You were staring at that woman's ass. Mirko had a stupid reaction, because she was stupid, but everyone else had a different reaction. Kurama, if Orochimaru were to take over one of us, which one would have take over? All Might asked as he looked at the phone, as it switched to a video call. Naruto, in costume, was grinning as he gave the phone a peace sign. Well duh, Orochimaru isn't any of you. Why would he bother, when he could just say he is in one of you, and have you all fight yourselves? But don't worry, Orochi-chan is with you guys right now, and he is so pissed. After all, he was outsmarted by an idiot like me. If an idiot can outsmart you, guess you're not a real genius, Orochimaru. Whoops, I mean Yamada no Orochi lol, if you even deserve to be called by that name. Anyway, since you killed my master, I'm going to piss on your master's grave, Naruto stated as he showed the image of a gravestone that was behind him, and he had a wicked grin on his face. PFF'd, for a little bastard, he's got style. Endeavor snorted when he realized that one of his worst enemies was getting humiliated by a teenage boy, who was doing his very best to taunt Orochimaru in the worst ways possible. Orochimaru came out of hiding. He looked absolutely vivid as he stared at the phone's screen, undoing the transformation that made him look like one of the school's desks. His eyes were narrowed dangerously. I am a genius unlike any other, and you will not piss on my master's grave. He is your master's master, who you gained your villain name from. You will not disrespect him. Oh, trust me, this is way less disrespectful than what you've done to his teachings apparently. You've become a slave to your quirk, and villains are supposed to be free. I think your master would gladly accept this piss, because I'm showing off my freedom. Naruto unzipped his pants with a grin spreading wider under his mask. Orochimaru's eyes became even more livid. Wait, who is holding the phone? You better not be showing some other girl your dick other than me, you little. I'm supposed to be the only one who gets to see that. Mirko got angry for the wrong reason too, when she realized that Naruto had neither hand on the phone. She blinked, before she blushed when she realized that she was saying something stupid during such a serious moment. Pissing had never caused more tension. Orochimaru looked like a bomb that could go off at any moment, while everyone else was frozen when a strange feeling came over them. Paralyzing fear. I'm going to subject you to an utter hell after I take your body. Your mind will face endless misery and suffering as I break your spirit completely if you continue with what you are doing. Raah. Orochimaru broke through the nearest wall as he rushed his way towards where his master was buried, where Naruto was, and where he was going to unleash all of his fury. Naruto was literally pissing on his master's grave right now. Quote. Nice dick though, Toga commented as she turned the phone so that she was the only one looking at the video. Orochimaru was out of the room, and off after Naruto, and everyone could breathe easier now that the oppressive air in the room was gone. With Naruto. Quote. Kid, you might be relieving your bladder, but you have no idea how therapeutic this is for me watching you torment Orochimaru emotionally, and cause him to fly into a rage. Nana stated as she turned off Naruto's phone. He had to explain how to do that for her. She was out of the hospital, since she was the only one that Naruto trusted at the moment not to backstab him. She wasn't legally a hero anymore, and her quirk had vanished to the point of becoming nearly gone. Years of time, without Orochimaru protecting her quirk, quickly passed as the flames of One for All quickly died inside of her. Not just One for All. Even her original quirk was disappearing too, meaning that once her quirk was gone, she would never be able to become a hero again. Her quirks were what allowed her to become a great hero, and while she knew she would lose One for All, losing her original quirk as well had been somewhat of a downer for her. Yeah, you mind not watching? This is actually super embarrassing, and I really do feel bad about this. Naruto stated, now allowed to be honest since the phone was not recording and sending this to Orochimaru. Whipping his dick out wasn't as easy as you would think, when you knew that you had an audience watching you. Popstep landed nearby, sweating bullets. She had a different case in her hands. Quote. I gave the thought the fake case, got the real case here. Quote. Popstep stated as she lifted up the case for Naruto to take. She hated being involved in this plan at all, and how Naruto made a show of her giving Toga the fake case just to make Orochimaru believe that Toga was the real Naruto. She had to hop and jump faster than ever before to make it to where Naruto is. It had been fast and scary, and she had even hitched a ride on top of a dangerously fast speeding car just to make it as fast as she could. Ah, put that thing away. Popstep shouted and covered her face with her hands, when she realized that Naruto's dick was out. When Naruto quickly did that with a red face, she uncovered her face and gave a short shiver. Quote. Anyway, what was in that case? Popstep quickly changed the subject. Toga's case was far too heavy for it to be empty. Insurance. You see, I talked to this weird guy who gave me my clothes, and he got me in contact with some weird doctor dude. That case had a little surprise for the heroes in that room, and Toga. Naruto grinned, since he had managed to get the more dangerous people to him personally, all in the same room with the thing that he had asked for. Of course, he owed a favor to the League of Villains, dumb name, he would have to say, in exchange for what he had asked for. One favor to the League of Villains didn't seem so bad. You're not going to hurt Toshi, are you? Nana was serious instantly. With the heroes. By the way, Kurama told me that when Orochimaru escaped, that he wanted me to use the backup plan. He said the only way for us to defeat Orochimaru was for us to use this. Toga stated as she got the case out again. Now she was dressed in her normal clothes. She had been told to open the case and make it seem like she took something out, but she opened the case again and this time took the false bottom out of it. Apparently, he wanted to draw Orochimaru away from all of us, so we could use this. It will give our quirks a power-up, it's called trigger or something. We just breathe in this gas, and we become strong enough to fight. Toga stated as she started to pass small gas masks out to everyone, since they were all needed for the fight apparently. Quote. A power-up. This bastard played Orochimaru like a fool. Endeavor took the mask, and happily put it over his mouth. A power-up, and the chance to kill Orochimaru. Sign him up. I knew that he wasn't double-crossing us, he's a very honest villain. Yukio stated with a huff. She remembered when he gave her a blanket, because she was affected by the cold weather. A horrible person wouldn't do that for her, so he must have good in him. This was all a plow to take down an enraged Orochimaru. All Might put on his mask, and Yukio followed after. Seeing All Might put on the mask, Best Jeanist and Mirko put the masks on as well. Toga finally put on the mask, and she pulled out a small piece of paper. Okay, it says here that to activate it, we need to press the buttons on the side of the mask, and breath in, and as we're breathing in, I'm supposed to say this. Toga pressed the button on the side of the mask. All of them followed after her. They started to breath in the small amounts of gas. Kurama is Naruto Uzumaki. With Naruto, All Might and Mirko know who I am, and eventually, they're going to come for me when I'm not Kurama. I only revealed myself to them because of the danger we were all in. I gave Toga instructions to read a piece of paper. When they breath in that gas, they will receive a power-up to their quirks. But the gas drug has a side effect of making their brains lock away memories related to the next thing they hear. Toga doesn't know it, but I'm making everyone in that room lock away the memories of my real identity. Naruto explained as he cracked his neck. Mirko and All Might knowing his real identity was just too dangerous to him, so he needed to make sure that once all of this was over with, he would get to continue having his fun. His cat and mouse with Mirko was something he didn't want to become so easily corrupted by her knowing his real identity, and it was no fun if she knew who he was when she chased him. Half of the fun of letting her chase him was her trying to figure out who he was. He wasn't ready to give that up yet. Oh, I guess that is okay, but you're okay with me, actually. I don't know your identity. Nana realized that she had never seen Kurama without his mask on, and her student had never really had a conversation about Kurama's real identity. All she had seen was him with the hood down, so she knew he had spiky blonde hair. "I know his real identity," Popstep bragged, realizing that she was the only one after this who would remember who he was. Naruto didn't correct her. "Either way, you're not a fighter. So you better get out of here. This is about to get super dangerous, and I'm going to do everything in my power to lead Orochimaru to the next location." Naruto started to limber up his muscles. He was going to have to jump faster, try harder, and be better than he had ever been during a chase before. This wasn't going to be like when he evaded heroes. It wasn't just some petty charge he would be getting, the outcome would be far worse if he failed. "Take Nana-chan with you. I'll remind you, I'm older than you, so don't call me that." Nana pointed out with a deadpan. "Take Nana-chan with you, she's pretty much powerless now. She will just get in the way." Naruto stressed as he looked at her harshly. He trusted her not to stab him in the back, so he included her in his plans and snuck her out of the hospital. He didn't want her to die though, so it was far better for everyone involved if she fucked herself out of this situation completely. The ground started to rumble. A large figure in the distance was seen quickly approaching, a massive figure that was shaped like a large snake. "Kurama, well then, better get into character." Naruto slapped his cheeks a few times, shaking his entire body as he got himself hyped up. Nana grabbed his arm. "This is impossible, you can't win. My goal isn't to win, it's to not lose," Naruto told her as Popstep grabbed Nana, and started to quickly lead her away from the area as quickly as they could run. She wasn't strong enough to really use her quirk to carry Nana that much, so she did what she could and helped the weakened older woman run away. "Showtime," Naruto whispered to himself as he saw Orochimaru approaching. Orochimaru was no longer a handsome man. He was a massive white snake, with the wild brown hair of a man. His body was that of a white snake made up of many, many smaller snakes. His yellow eyes were looking at Naruto as he rapidly approached, and Naruto just gulped in response. This was terrifying. "I'll take your body, and torture your soul for all of eternity." "Oh come on now, surely your master is used to getting some dick." Naruto laughed as he jumped away from Orochimaru, who crashed his head into where Naruto had been. Naruto landed on the top of a nearby monument, before he jumped far away when Orochimaru started to quickly give chase to him. He was fast. He was faster than Mirko when in snake form, and it was only by jumping at an angle that Naruto escaped him when Orochimaru tried to swallow him whole. He shattered the monument without a care as he started to change directions, and caught sight of Naruto again. One of the snakes lifted its head, and a pillar of wood shot out of it, towards Naruto with the full intent on slamming him into the building he was standing on the side of. Naruto jumped onto the wooden pillar, and slid down it towards the snake that produced it. Reaching out, he touched the snake as he ducked under Orochimaru's mouth. "Your poison won't affect me, Kurama. That snake is only a single part of my body. It contains only one of my many bodies," Orochimaru called out as he snapped towards Naruto. That singular snake started to die, and when it died, the snake convulsed and spat out a hero that Naruto recognized. Kamui Woods. In his normal form, he has all those snakes hidden, but in this form, each of those snakes contains one of the bodies he has stolen, and he's so angry he doesn't care how many bodies he loses. This got more complicated. Naruto thought as he jumped high to evade, and he started to jump towards where he would best be able to use his agility to his advantage. Orochimaru ignored the knocked-out Kamui Woods, and just chased after Naruto, his once captured and now freed hero forgotten. "You are the prize of my collection, boy. Once I have you, I can spend 1,000 years or more collecting any quirk I lose today. Don't think for a second that freeing these bodies will change things in your favor. You will be the first and only person to face me in my second form." Orochimaru shouted out as he spat a poisonous cloud at Naruto. Naruto couldn't see Orochimaru, but he dodged when his head came out of the cloud at a different angle, trying to attack him from the side. Naruto ran. He jumped away, towards the city. Since it was late, most people would be affected by the current curfew that was in place. Naruto dodged when two snakes stretched out from Orochimaru's body, and tried to strike him with their heads. They destroyed the parts of the building they touched, and Naruto touched both sides with his hands as he was in the middle of dodging them. Orochimaru truly didn't care about how many bodies he lost. As the snakes died, and they released their prisoners, Naruto grabbed both death arms and a strange guy with orange hair he didn't know. Naruto landed on the ground and tossed them to either side of the road. Naruto backflipped through the air over the top of Orochimaru and ran his forearm over a couple more snakes. I'm flattered, but I repeat, this booty hole is an exit only. You're not getting my ass, now or ever body, but look on the bright side, you will lose knowing what my dick looks like. Naruto stated with an airy laugh. He grabbed the heroes and people he released by touching and killing the snakes, before he jumped behind a car and put them on the ground. Naruto ran out from behind the car when Orochimaru looked towards it, and he jumped up onto the side of the building to give Orochimaru a target. 10 snakes started to spew different elements, all around in wild directions as they caused random destruction to everything. Naruto ended up dodging ice spikes, electric balls, flames, rocks, water, air, darkness, closing his eyes to avoid very bright light, just to name a few things as he flipped all around the buildings while still trying not to get swallowed whole. How long can you last, Kurama? I, who knows over 1,000 fighting styles, will not lose to such a child as you. Orochimaru called out as he located Naruto once more, and started to chase after him again. Naruto grinned under his mask. But you've never gone against the number one villain. You think any of the heroes you've captured have any memories of fighting a villain like me? Naruto asked with a wide grin on his face. This was scary as hell. Music. RWBY Ost, Neon. This was fun. You might be a villain, but after absorbing heroes for so long, do you even really remember what it is like to be a villain? Guess you were a piss poor villain if you wanted to be like the heroes this much. Naruto easily dodged the 10 snakes as they chased after him and chased him down with elements at their disposal. He sensed them coming with a grin on his face, touching each one with a different part of his body to put his poison into them. Yes, this was fun. Orochimaru acted like a villain, but his fighting styles, all of them he had stolen, belonged to the heroes he stole them from. At least I'm evil. I've never lost to a hero before, not once. You hear that music? Naruto asked as he grabbed a hold of a traffic light and spun around it. He went flying towards Orochimaru and grabbed onto a snake, using it as a rope as he slid underneath Orochimaru's gaping mouth with a grin on his face. Naruto slid across the ground he landed on, skating across Orochimaru's body with his hand and touching another dozen snakes. Music. So you've gone insane then. Fear really drives a man wild. Orochimaru laughed as he snapped at Naruto, and swung his tail towards the villain. Naruto flipped it, dodging by a hair's breadth. Naruto continued with his momentum and jumped into the air, landing upside down on a moving train as it sped away. Orochimaru gave chase after Naruto, as he jumped on top of the train, and waved his hand towards Orochimaru. Poor Orochimaru, you're really a sad creature, you've become a true slave to your own quirk. Look at me, I don't let my quirk rule my desires. You've based your entire life on what your quirk does. You've willingly surrendered all of the freedom of villainy to a prison of your own making. You're really just like those heroes. Naruto mocked as Orochimaru got onto the train tracks and chased after the train, quickly approaching it as went towards a tunnel. Orochimaru, other than mental warfare, fought just like the heroes he captured. Orochimaru only got more angry though. Fight me. No, I don't think I will. That just doesn't sound fun. If I fought you, I might lose. How about a kiss? Little bitty kiss gonna make the bad boo-boo on your feelings feel better? Naruto asked as he surprised Orochimaru by jumping off the train and land on the side of the tunnel. Orochimaru's massive form made it impossible for him to stop quickly enough, and his head ended up following after the train into the tunnel. Naruto jumped onto Orochimaru and started to run down the middle of his trail, using body of his hands to touch as many snakes as possible. This entire time, he planned on fighting Orochimaru. How could he think so stupidly? The only reason I beat so many heroes is because I never once actually tried to fight them. I should have just done this from the beginning. I can't believe I was going to ignore who I've been this entire time, just because I was scared. Naruto thought as he felt something great fill him up. He didn't know what it was, but it was something he had been missing for the past few days, something that had been what made it fun to be a villain for him. A spark that he didn't know he had lost when Orochimaru showed up and made him a target. Orochimaru broke the tunnel that had him trapped, and Naruto tossed the freed victims down towards bushes and trees for them to land on and in. Their knocked-out states would help them take less injury from the short falls, and he made sure none of them landed on their heads. You can't dodge me forever. I will possess you. Orochimaru got closer to the peak of his rage. Naruto blew a kiss at him. Like I said earlier, ass, exit only. I don't know what you and the previous Kurama villain liked to do together, but I'm straight. Not that there is anything wrong with being gay, just not my thing. Naruto saw a truck pass underneath the bridge holding the train tracks. Naruto jumped down and landed on top of the truck. Wow, he recognized the truck driver. Kurama, what are the odds you would land on my truck again? Oh, I haven't seen you since I beat Yukio. I'm being chased by another big monster guy. Mind giving this villain a short ride? Naruto asked as he rode the side of the truck, talking to the driver with a cocky, masked smile. He gestured to Orochimaru as he shattered the concrete that he traveled on, chasing after the truck with more fury. Orochimaru got faster with each body whose weight he lost from his form, but he also got weaker. It was a dangerous trade-off. If you want, just take a really sharp right at the next stop. Naruto corrected himself as he prepared to jump forward. Got it. When Orochimaru got within biting distance, the truck driver took a sharp right just as Naruto jumped forwards. He used his forward momentum to increase the speed and power of his jump so much, that when he landed he was a good 100 meters away from Orochimaru, who had a massive chunk of concrete in his jaws. He snapped his jaws shut and destroyed the concrete he was holding. Naruto started to dance in the most smug way possible. Stop playing around. You think this is a game? Orochimaru's growl was threatening. It was honestly terrifying. Sure, I can play a game with you, it's not like you are a challenge or anything. Guess you're so much like a hero, a real villain like me doesn't have a problem. Stop. Cute, you're triggered. Naruto jumped on top of Orochimaru's head when he charged forward, and Naruto started to touch each and every snake that was around Orochimaru's head. Orochimaru hissed in agony, and tossed Naruto off of him as dozens of heroes and quirk users started to fall to the ground below Orochimaru. Naruto landed on his feet nearby, and he winced in pain. Naruto started to run towards Orochimaru as he slowed down, and he turned to face Naruto again, all the snakes around his head having died. Most of his once horrifyingly scary body were now composed of dead snakes. I'll kill you, ha, looks like you've finally reached the boiling point there. Fine by me, I wanted to try out this special move anyway. Naruto reached behind him, and he pulled out a needle, before he threw it towards Orochimaru. Used needle attack, hope you get a disease from this. Naruto saw the needle stab Orochimaru, and he jumped up in the air and landed on the needle foot first, injecting all of the drug inside of it into Orochimaru. Naruto jumped off and struck a pose when Orochimaru stopped moving. Orochimaru exploded. Holy shit. Naruto turned back and saw hundreds of knocked-out hero bodies landing on the ground all around him. Eyes widened when he saw what had happened. I thought he would lose control of his stolen quirks, sure, but that Trigger would, makes sense. After all, Trigger was made by villains. Nothing is better suited to take down a fake villain like you, than something made by real villains. Naruto stated as he looked towards the middle of the bloody explosion of dead snakes. Orochimaru was dead. Oh, never mind, come on now then, Orochi-chan. Let's see what you can do, I can still go on if you want. Naruto saw an elderly man standing, with looks somewhat similar to the Orochimaru he had seen before. He was ready to keep fighting if he needed, or rather to keep running away from a fight. How dare you keep using his words against me? I'm a real villain. I seek the freedom that becoming the strongest. I will be the very strongest. I will attain all quirks, and I will gain the freedom my master sought, all these years. I won't let you make them go to waste. What? Naruto asked with a tilted head. I don't know whose words you're talking about, but a real villain doesn't need to seek freedom. Just by being villains, we're more free than the heroes we face. I'm not ever fighting for freedom. I'm fighting to enjoy the freedom I have. Naruto rubbed the back of his head when Orochimaru stopped completely. Orochimaru was frozen in place by those words. You've been talking like Master Kurama. You must have been doing that to mock me, to upset me. Sorry, but I really only know a little bit about your master. Anything I said that sounded like him was just me stating my own beliefs. Not my fault if you took them too personally and got triggered. Naruto only knew a little of what the original villain Kurama, whose name he inherited, had believed in. Naruto mostly wanted to fuck with Orochimaru in the head, because of his own desire for a little revenge for his killed master. I was the strongest, nobody could defeat me in a fight. Duh, so I didn't fight you. I'm not really a fighter by nature. When I beat heroes, I do it non-violently for a reason, because I've never really trained that hard to fight people. You think I become the #1 villain because of my fighting ability? Naruto asked Orochimaru with a confused tone. He thought that everyone knew that his style of beating heroes was allowing them to beat themselves as he manipulated their emotions, taunted them, and forced them to make a mistake he could use against them to poison them. Orochimaru took a shaky step forward. He made a shake come out of his sleeves, and he made them snake go towards Naruto. I can still take you. I'll take you, and get the freedom that you have, Orochimaru weakly stated as his snake latched onto Naruto, biting his arm. Naruto didn't bother fighting back. Orochimaru had gone from anger to denial of his loss. You're blinded by strength. Did you forget? I'm poisonous, Naruto stated as the snake started to die, and the death started to spread towards Orochimaru as well. Naruto did flinch when the snake bit him several more times, as it struggled to fight death. I've used so much poison that my skin is coated in it too thickly, did you forget? Naruto asked as the poison finally reached Orochimaru. Orochimaru collapsed to his knees. Naruto didn't pity Orochimaru. You've damned hundreds to suffer for eternity inside of you. What I've give you is just a taste of their suffering. You deserve this. You deserve to die a weak, old man who has no loved ones to mourn your loss. I am not going to miss you, and nobody in this world will miss you. You will be forgotten, not even a memory one day. Naruto walked towards Orochimaru, as he gave the man nothing but things that put the fear of death into him. No. Please, save me. I can't save you. I can't touch you without speeding up your death. Naruto stated as Orochimaru started to convulse on the ground in front of him. The man was on death's door. His death was truly a promised thing at this point, and it didn't matter if Naruto wanted to save the man or not. He couldn't touch anyone without killing them, or be touched by anyone, until he had washed the poison from his body. Save me, I'm afraid, I don't want to die. Orochimaru was looking up at Naruto, as if he could save him or had a desire to save him. Orochimaru was a man who feared death more than anything else, it would seem. The man was a genius, but because of his genius, it was he who feared death more than the normal person. That fear controlled him more than it controlled other people, and now that he had lost control over his ability to avoid death, he was losing his ability to control his very fear itself. Now I pity you. You kill people, but you're afraid of death. I would never take a person's life, unless I was ready to have my life taken. Master Kurama, please tell me it's okay. Please tell me the afterlife isn't scary. Orochimaru died. Death is scary, of course it is, but what is scarier than death, is losing what is truly important to you. You lost that a long time ago, Orochimaru. When you lost what is truly precious, death becomes the scariest thing. Oh well, I have to go home anyway, it's late and I'm tired. Naruto stated as he rubbed the back of his head, annoyed that he hadn't realized all of this much sooner. 5 thuds hit the ground behind him. He turned around and looked to see 5 of the strongest heroes of Japan standing there, looking extremely out of control with black tongues in their mouths. It's never going to be easy. It is. Oh well, I don't have all night. You should be able to withstand a little fatal poison with Trigger doing this to you guys. The next morning. Does anyone remember what happened to us last night? Mirko asked as she looked at the IV that was connected to her arm, she being strapped to a bed with All Might, Endeavor, Yukio, and Best Jeanist in beds lined up next to her. All she remembered was her taking that mask that Kurama had sent to them, to power them up, and then she blacked out after that. And why do I feel like I should be Mirko trailed off, since for some reason she believed that she should be having sex with somebody right now. She had a sense of victory, and a sense of loss. Yamada no Orochi, a legendary villain who has claimed hundreds of victims, found dead after eyewitnesses reported him chasing after Kurama. Has the #1 villain turned into a hero, or did Orochi bite off more than he could chew? Orochimaru died, and none of us even remember what happened. All Might wasn't sure how to feel about this. He remembered that his master was with them again, and all of Orochimaru's hundreds of victims were now patients at the hospital. He kind of remembered Kurama, but some of the details about Kurama were so hazy that he couldn't remember anything else about it. He's really dead. Endeavor didn't know what to say, seeing the news. Why wasn't I wearing panties when they found us? Yukio asked in a deadpan voice, with a laptop sitting in her lap. She was searching the internet for her panties, seeing if anyone was selling them. She could hazard a guess at who had stolen her panties from her, since the others had parts of their uniforms stolen from them as well. Kurama, Best Jeanist and All Might commented together. Only Kurama would have done that. But why do I feel like I'm forgetting something about Kurama, and things concerning him? All Might thought with a furrowed brow. With Naruto, Jiraiya was a pervert among perverts, but he was my master. It was his money that funded the places here that allow villains a safe haven from heroes. It may not be much, but I hope all of you will remember him as, not a hero, but a hero to villains. He was there when we needed him, which is why I really wish more than 2 of you showed up. Naruto stated with a deadpan as he looked at the underwhelming crowd of 2 people who had showed up to the bar when he kicked them out. His arm that the snake had bitten several times was wrapped up in bandages, though sometimes the wound would open and he would bleed through them. It was still worth the price that he paid for getting justice for his master and all of those that had died. He was such a good way to earn money. He was the most frequent patron of my bar. Okay, you 2 idiots can go home. Service over, the mood is honestly ruined. Jiraiya is spitting at both of you from the afterlife. Naruto face palmed as he spoke, just shocked at how even the people of the red light district who benefited from him showed him no respect even at his surprise memorial service. Naruto groaned when he felt his arm throb with pain. He really hoped this would heal quickly. And thus, we are hereby happy to inform everyone that thanks to Kurama, the dangerous villain known as Yamada no Orochi has been defeated and hundreds of innocents have been saved. As more information about Orochi is being revealed, we will have more information for you. Kurama well, that's pretty cool of the guy to fight on the side of good. Nimari stated as she cooked breakfast, a happy smile on her face. She had not really gotten involved with the Orochimaru incident at all, since her battle-related abilities weren't rated high enough to warrant her being allowed to participate. She had been worried when Naruto didn't come home one night, but he had sent her a text saying he was staying with a friend because he lost track of time before the curfew kicked in. Thankfully, with the super dangerous villain defeated, the curfew for civilians had been lifted for everyone other than young minors, who had a curfew anyway. In other news, among the hundreds of victims found, more than 237 villains have been identified and placed in a secure hospital where they will await trial for their past misdeeds. Many more heroes have been found, and are being reunited with their families or descendants of their families. Damn it, stupid, Naruto scratched as the bandages on his arm, since the snake bites had yet to heal. He had been able to explain that to Nimari easily enough as just him visiting a snake god shrine with a friend, and him getting bit by a wild snake that had mistaken him for an actual toad due to his scent. It will heal soon enough, anyway, now that things are going to go back to normal. I was thinking, UA's school sports festival will be coming up soon. The general studies, hero, support, and business classes will all be attending it, and you and I can do some training together to get you ready for it. Nimari talked to Naruto without looking at him. She didn't want to pressure him into wanting to become a hero, but she wanted him to enjoy the sports festival and do his best to show off the latent talents that she could tell he had. While all students would be participating, only 40 students would make it to round 2, and only a handful of students would compete in round 3. She would love to see Naruto make it to round 3. Isn't the sports festival just a way for UA to show off the hero course to Japan, since it is broadcast on TV? I don't see why I should try. I mean, it would be better if just students from the hero course got to show off. Some guy like me who isn't aiming to be a hero doesn't really need the attention. Naruto was given a plate with a good breakfast on it as Nimari finished cooking for the two of them. While, before Orochimaru, he and Nimari had been working towards some quirk training in the sports festival. Now that a threat on the level of Orochimaru had been revealed, the nation was still shaken up. It would be best to give them hope for the future, but focusing on showing off the future generation of heroes. Heroes who would be the ones to one day defeat Orochimaru-level threats if they ever showed up. Him stopping Orochimaru was a one-time thing. He wasn't a hero and this wasn't what he wanted to do all the time. Yeah, he would jump in and save a person's life if he was there and he was able to do something, but he wasn't going to go out of his way to be a hero either. Orochimaru had been targeting him directly this time. Future villains wouldn't be doing that. Well, you know, a lot of children love watching it with their parents, or caretakers. I was thinking. Nimari stopped herself, before she gave a sly giggle when she realized that what she planned on doing would be best left as a surprise. She didn't want Naruto to know, so she wouldn't even hint at it. Naruto stared at her. You're not planning something incredibly stupid, are you? Naruto asked her with a dull tone. She had something stupid planned. -2 weeks later. You're not planning something incredibly stupid, are you? Momo asked as she looked at Naruto with a dull tone in her voice, her eyes deadpanned as she saw Naruto grinning to himself in the lunchroom. She sat down at the same table as him, because after 2 weeks with 2 more weeks to the sports festival, she hadn't gotten much time to try and expose him to the world at large as Kurama yet. She had also planned on punching him for letting such an insane girl loose on her, but she had quickly realized that what the doppelganger woman did was not something that Naruto would ask the girl to do. Naruto didn't seem the type to ask a girl to molest another girl so heavily, meaning the girl had acted on her own without Naruto's approval there. If she wanted to be angry with Naruto, she would have to be more angry with herself for falling for the woman's trap and seductions. "Sup Muffintop, how's it hanging?" Naruto greeted her with a grin. She cleared her throat. "What are you planning for the sports festival, Naruto?" Momo asked him as she pulled her chopsticks apart. "Might as well be direct." "Nothing. You're lying." "No, seriously, I don't have any plans." Midnight has been keeping me so busy with her insisting on training me, I haven't had the time to make any big plans. Anyway, wasn't going to anyway. A ton of heroes show up and watch the sports festival live, literally hundreds of pro heroes in one location, not a good place to try anything. Naruto deadpanned to her, since while he was cocky and arrogant, he wasn't stupid enough to show up as Kurama in front of hundreds of heroes who were after his ass. Kurama, number 1 villain. Villain who defeated the top 10. Villain who defeated the most dangerous villain. Villain who had never been caught, never been defeated, defeated every hero who faced him. If he showed up, then hundreds of heroes would jump at the chance to take him down and earn fame for themselves. Not even his poison could take out hundreds of pro heroes with different quirks and abilities easily. He wasn't that cocky. "Oh, you're not lying." Momo blinked and realized that no villain in their right mind would even try to show up where hundreds or even thousands of pros would be located. It was a literally villain career suicide. "Sorry, I just assumed that, you being you would do something." "So, how goes training with?" "Wait, why is she training you? You're stronger than her." Momo asked with a questioning stare at him. Naruto shrugged his shoulders. "I mean, I really don't use most of my quirks traits when I don't really fight, but when I do what I do, I don't use the toad stuff. I use the poison, and since Midnight doesn't know I plan on losing in the first round, gotta at least." "You're giving up before you even begin?" Momo asked with a tilted head. He was just going to throw the competition in round 1. I mean, she let some details slip on accident. Turns out round 3 is a battle tournament, and with all the rules, I'm at a real disadvantage, considering I can't use my usual winning strategy, and Mina has already defeated me. Can't exact. I see, the third event is a tournament battle, so one-on-one fights, in brackets, meaning event 1 will trim down the numbers, and event 2 will trim them down to a tournament easy size. Anyway, why would you just give up? Momo interrupted Naruto to analyze his words, and he just patiently waited for her to finish talking, so that he could talk again. He looked at her, and she blinked. Sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt. You did it twice. Anyway, the sports festival is a chance for UA to show off its future heroes to Japan. This is a really important chance for you heroes to show off, and after this, you guys will get to intern, and for that I have a lot of plans to screw with you guys, but considering how the Orochimaru stuff went down, I felt it was better for everyone if I didn't mess with this event. Naruto admitted to her, and she showed some visible surprise when she heard his words. That was a well thought out, and emotionally thoughtful, reason for him not messing with the heroes during the sports festival. It also showed something that she respected about him. He did not hate heroes. He was a villain who didn't hate heroes, and instead held a healthy respect for them to the point that he wasn't above helping them when they needed it. It was well known that he gave Yukio a blanket when she was suffering from the cold. It was known he moved Mount Lady to a rooftop to keep her secret identity from being exposed by reporters. He messed with heroes all the time, but he never did anything actually evil or hurtful to them, other than damaging their pride, but that was minor. You might be a bad guy, but you really are a good guy. Momo spoke with her small smile gracing her face. Yes, this was part of the reason civilians loved Kurama so much. He had such a great charisma about him, that inspired others to want to believe in him and place their bets on him. He attracted the attention of others, and even his evil actions held no real malice to them. Anyway, it isn't like there is a reason for me to try that hard, it isn't like there is a prize. Attention students, but in celebration for a great villain being defeated, this year there will be a prize for the first place winner of the sports festival. The winner will receive a prize of 10 million yen donation to the charity of their choice. That was a good reason for him to try hard. Quirks. The use of one's quirk was innate, something that a person just naturally knew how to use in some way, shape, or form. If you were able to shoot lasers from your eyes, you didn't need training to know how to do it. Your body would know how to do it by itself, and you just had to have the knowledge that you had that ability. That was how it was for those who had quirks that could be turned on and off at will, quirks where you could do a special power like controlling an element or shooting a projectile. Quirks could be broken down into types. Emitter. Quirks that release or alter things around them, be it producing flames, controlling gas, or doing something elemental in nature. To train emitter quirks, what you needed to do was train the part of the body that controlled the quirk's ability. If you used your hands, you trained your hands and trained your quirk factor in your hands. The easiest quirk to train physically. Transformation. The quirk that changes the body of the user. The easiest quirk to train in terms of thought process, you just needed to train your body's transformed state by increasing how long you could transform, or train the way that they transform. Sometimes it was even as easy as just changing the way they would eat. While it was the quirk to train, transformation quirks were less common. Mutant. A quirk that was always active, changing the very way the human body naturally functioned. You could have arms that could produce special abilities, or you could have a body that could naturally produce the abilities of certain animals. It was the hardest quirk to train for those who had the abilities of certain animals, because while quirks themselves were innate knowledge, with mutant-type quirks, sometimes you actually needed to be aware of aspects of your quirk that you can and cannot use. So, what do you know you can do with your quirk? Nimari asked Naruto as she had a notebook down in front of her, to write down anything that she could use to help train his quirk. She had an emitter quirk. He had a mutant quirk. There was a very large difference in how the two quirk types functioned, and where all of her abilities came naturally to her, and all she needed to do to train was take hot baths and practice skin care to open her pores. Naruto needed a vastly different type of training in order to awaken certain aspects of his quirk he might not be fully aware of. It was perhaps the biggest disadvantage of them not being related by blood, their lack of understanding of the very nature of each other's quirks. I can make poison come out of my skin. I'm able to store things in my stomach, and spit my stomach out. I can stick to walls and ceilings, and I can partially breathe through my skin when I'm in water. I know I can change my skin's color to match my surroundings. My singing voice has a strong hypnotic effect on girls, but it isn't really effective on guys. I can change my gender at will, and I have enhanced strength and speed. Naruto explained the various aspects of his quirk that he was aware of. These were things that he had heard his father was able to do, and some of them he had done himself. Your girl form is smoking, by the way, Nimari added with a nod of her head. She had been the one to suggest Naruto try and see if he could change genders, since toads and frogs in the wild had shown that ability. Naruto was against using the ability, as a proud male, but she wanted to open the possibilities of him exploring the female body and gaining some lesbian experience. She knew that she had gained some experiences when she had been going through school, experiencing her youth with people she bonded with in some form or another. By the way, Naruto was sitting on the ceiling. Nimari was laying on her back as she watched Naruto do reverse sit-ups, using nothing but his abs and his hands that were allowing him to stick to the ceiling. She was being very careful to avoid his sweat as it dripped off of his body, since it had a very slight poison aspect to it that was nowhere near as powerful as the poison he chose to secrete. Naruto's poison sweat was a 2 on a scale to 10. Naruto's potent poison could range anywhere between 1 and 10 depending on how dangerous he wanted the poison to be. Can you puff your body up to look bigger? Nimari asked, and Naruto had to pause, before he dropped from the ceiling and landed on his feet. I have no clue. Naruto took a deep breath, and he held it. His muscles started to expand all over his body, going from his normal lean frame to a far more muscular form. He ripped his shirt and his pants, leaving only extremely stretched underwear behind as he tore through the clothes like a hot knife through butter. Nimari was a little shocked, but for Naruto, once he learned that he might be able to use such an ability, it was as if his body just knew how he could do it out of instinct. Holy crap! Nimari jumped up in shock when she saw his muscles change shape so drastically. Naruto had a lean, but muscular physique normally, but right now he had a similar muscular structure to All Might himself, though his muscles were scaled down to match his height a little more. All the same, while his bone structure stayed the same, his inflated muscles were large enough that his bicep was about as thick as her thigh was, and she had pretty thick thighs. Naruto let out the breath he was holding, and his muscles shrank back down to normal. Looks like this ability is related to my stomach and lungs. As long as I hold my breath, I can take on a muscle form. Anything else? Naruto walked towards Nimari, since she had a computer next to her. She was looking online for unique toad traits, and common toad traits, looking for any abilities that he hadn't shown to see if he was capable of doing them himself. This training was more so testing the limits of what his quirk could do, before training his body any further than they had been training it. Can you take on that? You are my mother by law, and incest, even with no blood relations, is still very much wrong. Naruto deadpanned at her when she perved on his muscle form a little. She shook herself from her stupor, and regained her normal senses. She nodded her head. Sorry, I'm still a hot-blooded woman. Anyway, says here some toads will regrow lost limbs if they were exposed to estrogen. Nimari commented and asked, before she saw how pale Naruto looked at that question. Yeah, they better not test to see if he could regrow lost body parts by giving him hormone shots, since that was a rather unpleasant thought on what would happen if he couldn't do that. It was overall just not a very good idea, one that both of them didn't like the thought of. Can we not? Yeah, you're right. So, are you any stronger in your muscle form? Nimari looked at Naruto with some intrigue. This wasn't so she could perv on his muscle form, she honestly wanted to know if he had any stat increases. Nope. Wait, that was a really quick answer. Nimari was a little shocked at how quick the response to her question came, since he didn't even know he had that ability until now. Naruto just shrugged his shoulders, since he could just tell the form didn't make him any stronger. It was his quirk, and even though he just learned about that power, he could already tell that he didn't have much of a power increase, if any at all. It was innate for him to know this. Nimari frowned and palmed the side of her head in thought, trying to think how she could help him training in a way that was unique for his quirk. She didn't have the toad quirk, she didn't even have a mutant-type quirk. It was hard for her to understand how his knowledge on his quirk worked, and how it worked in general since she wasn't a scientist or doctor who studied quirks in a serious environment. Knock, knock, knock. Doors not locked, come on in. Nimari called out, and Naruto looked at her like she was an idiot as he grabbed one of her sweaters from the carpet and put it on. She seemed to forget that his body was very exposed at the moment, with his underwear stretched and threatening to fall off at any given moment. He put the sweater on just in time. The door opened, and it was somebody that Naruto didn't recognize in the slightest. Oh, wait, never mind, he had seen this girl before. She wore perhaps the sexiest underwear in the school. Something he recognized from the time he switched her school uniform with a boy from the other hero course. Setsuna Tokage, Midnight Sensei, since the sports festival is coming up. Oh, sorry, it seems another student is here. Didn't mean to interrupt any sexy activities you two might be. This is my son. Nothing sexual is happening at all. Minus 30 minutes later. So, her quirk lets her split her body into pieces. Those pieces can levitate, and they can come back together. If they stay away from her body too long, they deactivate and her body regrows what she lost. That quirk is super dangerous to me. Naruto thought to himself as Setsuna talked to Nimari about some issues she was having with her training. She had a lean and muscular body, but a very sexually attractive one to add on. Lizard-like sharp and jagged teeth, with long and wavy green hair, and sharp eyes. She kind of reminded him of Momo. Her quirk had a severe type advantage against his poison, if she ever encountered it, since even if he touched a part of her body that was split, the rest of her body would be unaffected and she could regrow back the parts he touched. Overall, if she became a pro hero, battling against her would be one hell of a challenge for him with her quirk's natural advantage to his own quirk. It would be a battle of skill and stamina if he ever went against her. Well, can you leave the room, Naruto-kun? Setsuna asked as she looked at Naruto, who raised an eyebrow, before he shrugged. Nimari raised an eyebrow at the same time as him, but she nodded her head. Naruto-kun, do I know her from anywhere else? Naruto tried to think of why she would use such an affectionate way of referring to him, or she was just being a high school girl and using an affectionate name with a boy she didn't hate. Either way, if she wanted to be alone while she asked Nimari for help, he was fine with that. I'm going to get changed, and go hang out with a friend of mine at her house. Naruto stated as he thought about Pop. He needed to thank her for helping during the Orochimaru issue, and he needed to thank Nana as well since she had given him direct assistance. Later. Come on. It will look super awesome. Just wear it once when you get chased by a hero. You know you want to. I regret being thankful to your help. Naruto deadpanned as he looked at the blatant advertisement that she wanted him to wear. It was a shirt with her name, face, and of course a link to her social media accounts on the back of it. It was blatant advertisement towards her, to the point that it was purely stupid looking. At the same time, he owed her a big one. You owe. Yeah, whatever, I'll wear it the next time Kurama shows up. My arm has healed up, so I can go and do some villain work again. Naruto looked down at his freshly healed arm, since it had been preventing Kurama from making any appearances the last few weeks. It wouldn't be good if people saw Kurama's arm bandaged up, and his own arm bandaged up, and put two and two together. Naruto grinned. He had the perfect target planned out. Damn you, Kurama, I'm going to catch you. Yeah, keep telling yourself that, bun. Naruto teased Mirko as held her leotard up, leaving her naked for the most part if you didn't count the accessories of her costume. He had a towel tossed on top of her breasts and crotch, since he had finally defeated her in a spot where she wouldn't be seen naked on national TV. Seriously, how are you still single with that rocking body? Naruto teased her, calling her back to an earlier comment he had made to her, months previously. Mirko growled at him. Her tongue had just returned back to normal. After 2 weeks she and the rest of those who had been affected by whatever it was Kurama did to them to erase their memories, after it had been black for a while. Now that her tongue was back to normal, she was out of the hospital and had returned back to hero duty, only for Kurama to appear right before her and taunt her. I'm going to catch you, and then I'm going to take you for a ride. You better get a good look at my body, because one day, it will be the only woman's body you'll be seeing naked for days at a time. I will make you submit to me 10 times for every 1 time you've beaten me. Mirko tried to make any movements, but his poison was still in her body very potently. After I've beaten your face in, that is. Mirko added, since she was still going to pound his face in for beating her so much. Naruto chuckled. And there is why you are single. Hips don't lie, and your hips look dangerous. You know, most men aren't attracted to women who are going to abuse their dick. Later that day, thank you Mistress Midnight. Naruto regretted stating what he stated to Mirko earlier that day, since now that he was delivering Midnight some documents to her office he was seeing something he didn't want to see. That wasn't to say he was seeing sex happen right now, he wasn't seeing her having sex, but what he was seeing wasn't much better. She was butt naked, with a bathrobe at least though the bathrobe was open at the front, sitting in a chair in the middle of a room with a tablet in her hands. She was surrounded by young men in butler's suits, her sidekicks and assistants who worked for her. One of which she was currently stepping on his dick through his pants. He didn't know why this man was enjoying that, but Midnight seemed to be more concerned by whatever it was she was reading on her tablet. I don't want to know. Don't worry Naruto, this isn't an orgy and I'm not having sex with any of these young men. When I'm doing office work, I don't like wearing those tights. My boys being able to see me like this as a reward for their hard work prevents them from asking for bonuses. Midnight commented, no shame at all as she uncrossed her legs and switched them around. She hired these handsome young men for both their looks and their talents as workers. She didn't mind being seen naked, so they got the reward of seeing her naked in her office, while she got to waited on hand and foot by her hard-working boys. Did you bring me the documents? Boys, stop sending him those jealous looks, this is my son Naruto. Midnight noticed her boys sending Naruto looks of anger and jealousy for the closeness she seemed to hold for him. Master Naruto, please allow us to take your jacket for you. Whoa, too close. Naruto had his school jacket forcefully removed, though the drastic change in attitude was more shocking. Naruto walked over to Midnight and took the documents she wanted out of his school bag, and handed them over to her. When you know I'm coming to bring you stuff, please put something on. Naruto complained to her. She shrugged. You see me naked all the time at home. Thank you. By the way, I need to grade these before tomorrow. I'm going to be coming home late Naruto, so I can't train you tonight. I left some money on the table to order pizza, or whatever you want. Seems there is a new villain group forming, leaving some messages. Midnight spoke honestly with Naruto, and suddenly her obsessing over her tablet and the emails she was reading made sense. Let me guess, it's an all-male group, and they want you to subdue them non-violently, so they are young teens or something. Naruto didn't have much interest in villain groups, since he didn't really go out of his way to make friends with other villains. 7 males and 4 females according to what their body types indicate, they are calling themselves the Kurama 11. Midnight bit her thumb in annoyance as she looked at police reports that were being emails to her. She was one of the many heroes who were being sent this information, and she glanced up and saw Naruto seemed amused. The Kurama 11, like a lot of other villains, it seems they were inspired by Kurama. But unlike all the others who got caught easily, these villains seem to have some talent. They use very excellent teamwork to take down heroes, but where Kurama acts alone and non-violently, this group is more violent so they are being given a higher priority than Kurama. Midnight looked at Naruto's reaction, and saw him a little surprised. They've been in the news, I'm surprised you haven't heard of them. Midnight stated with some surprise of her own. They had been in the news for a few days now, she was surprised that he didn't seem to have at least heard of these guys by now. Then again, she had been really keeping him busy with training his quirk the best that she could. Mistress Midnight, should you? He's my son, and most of this is public knowledge. They use similar tactics to Kurama, but while Kurama's quirk is a mystery because he's skilled with hiding it. Their quirks are all a mystery because no hero they have taken down seems to remember what happened. They might have somebody among them who can manipulate memories. Any ideas? Midnight knew that Naruto had a really good mind for traps and battle tactics. She had been testing him on that over the last few weeks to see how well he would do in the school festival coming up soon. She had value for her son's opinion on what he believed they could do, or at least how the villains seemed to be doing it. Naruto thought about it for a few moments, and he sat next to Midnight in her chair with her, and looked at the crime scene photos from the reports. He also looked at the injury pictures on each of the heroes. No head injuries, so one of them can manipulate memories for sure. Each hero's injuries seem best suited to taking them down when considering their quirks. So one of them is extremely intelligent and is cunning enough to make plans to take down each hero. They also had the battle prowess to take down the heroes, so skilled fighters. They also have a leader who keep the brains and bronze in check. Seeing some of these bruises, they have a male and female martial artist, both of them use the same fighting style that target pressure points. Naruto started to analyze all of the heroes who had been defeated, though it was only a total of 7 at this point. He could see smaller bruises that were about the size of female hands, and ones that matched male hands, showing martial artists who use the same style had both a male and female user. Midnight hummed with a smile. Even if you don't become a hero, you could become a crime scene investigator. You have a very good eye for small details others would miss. Anything else? Midnight asked him, while her workers seemed a little awed by Naruto's good eye for detail. I don't have enough details, but with the accuracy that these few heroes had their pressure points attacked, might mean that the ones who did these injuries had quirks that let them see into the heroes' bodies more easily, or something that assists their martial arts. Sorry, I don't have much more than that. Naruto couldn't figure out much considering that the evidence provided such little information. Usually when he targeted a hero, he had a lot of information about them or he had seen them in the news enough to figure out their personality. He was also good at manipulating his opponent's emotions, and getting his opponents to act the way that he wanted them to act. While people who saw Kurama beat heroes would assume that Kurama was always one step ahead, the truth was that he was always manipulating his opponents into the positions he wanted them to be in. He was also good at doing this while making his own plans. Thank you. I'll look at the quirk registry for quirks that have an X-ray vision effect and those that can manipulate the mind. Seems a lot of villains are targeting Kurama, so better find a way to warn him. Must be hard being the top villain. Midnight shrugged to herself, feeling a little sorry for Kurama. Villains who idolized him were no doubt going to try and take the title of top villain from him by defeating him, the more famous that he got. These villains weren't the first Kurama fans to turn to villainy, they were just the first villains who followed Kurama who were good at being villains. By the way, these are all heroes Kurama beat, and they are sending a message to Kurama directly. The only parts of the heroes that are injuries, are parts where he has stolen a piece of their costume. Naruto pointed out as he started to stand up. Seeing the pictures of the beaten, but not horribly injured thankfully, heroes he had noticed something odd. He had defeated all of these heroes, and from each of these heroes he had taken part of their costumes. Those defeated heroes who faced these new villains all had parts of their costumes destroyed violently, but only the parts he himself had stolen from them before. This was a direct message. Really? Midnight asked in surprise when she looked more closely at the photos. She blinked, before her eyes widened when she saw it after it had been pointed out to her. How did you notice that, Master Naruto? All of these heroes have appears in the news after Kurama beat them. It's a little weird, but based on that, they are going to keep targeting heroes Kurama has beaten to send a message to him and draw him out. Naruto started to walk out of the room with a yawn. He didn't care if others' villains were trying to catch his eye, it wasn't like any of the heroes were receiving fatal injuries or anything. As far as he was concerned, these were just fans of his who were trying to get him to notice them. Midnight became excited. Okay boys, you heard him. Let's make a list of every hero that Kurama has beaten, and a list of all of the parts of their costumes he stole. Now we can make a list of future attack targets, and, oh, sorry Naruto, I'll be home even later than I thought. If you need me, you can call me whenever. Midnight spoke to him with a softer smile replacing her excited grin. Naruto shrugged his shoulders, since he had expected as much since she seemed to be really into her work. Just because Naruto was a villain himself, didn't mean he would got out of his way to protect other villains from getting captured. Anyway, he had a tournament to train for. This, Kurama 11 inches weren't important enough to warrant his attention. So, Setsuna, what is it that you needed to talk with me about? Nimari asked as she sat a cup of tea in front of her student. She was in charge of the school's arts in general, so she was familiar with the girl as a student. She was a confident girl, a strong hero candidate, and she was extremely confident as a general rule. Many of her classmates would even call her the most provocative girls of her year. She was one of the strongest students of her year as well, with all of her stats having been ranked among the students at the class of A, other than her physical strength, which still ranked higher than nearly any female student and most of the male students of her year. She never asked the teachers for help. She never needed the help of the teachers either. She was Class B's best, strongest student for a reason. Ah, you know, girl stuff. Setsuna shouted out awkwardly. Even though she was the one who was the person who came to Nimari, it would seem that she needed to have the answer dragged out of her. Okay. Love issues then. Nimari deadpanned with a small smile. Quote. Does Naruto ever talk about me? Setsuna asked Nimari with a bashful smile, her sharp teeth grating together as she looked at Nimari. No, I can't say he does. Should he? Nimari gave her a suspicious eye. Ahahahahaha, who knows? He might be my son, but he doesn't exactly tell me a ton about what he does. So please, be more direct with details here. Nimari was straight with Setsuna, since there wasn't much that she could do to help the girl if she refused to give her the details. Teachers weren't magical fix-its who could fix all of a student's problems. A student had to come and talk with them in order to get everything started. Setsuna ruffled the back of her hair and scrunched her face up. Quote. I was born 3 days after Naruto, and you know, and my mom was in the same hospital as his was, and when the accident happened that killed his parents, killed my dad and injured my mom. My mom died 3 days later, after giving birth to me. Setsuna stated, and Nimari raised an eyebrow. She didn't know any of this and Naruto didn't seem like he remembered much of Setsuna. You're an orphan, but I met your parents. Nimari had personally met both of Setsuna's parents during a parent-teacher conference. Quote. You're adopted. Nimari realized, since neither of her parents had the same quirk as she had, and they didn't look a thing like her except for her father having green hair, but that wasn't proof of bloodline. Yeah, same orphanage as Naruto actually, though Sasuke was adopted before me, and I got adopted when I was 7. Who is Sasuke? Nimari thought to herself when Setsuna unknowingly stated a name that wasn't a part of the story. Well, I used to write him letters as a kid, but I kind of stopped when my middle school friends made fun of me. I've wanted to be a hero ever since I was a kid. I felt really bad about abandoning him, so I wanted to. Setsuna blushed a little, and puffed her cheeks out as she looked around at the floor. To talk with him. Nimari tried to help her out. Did he forget about me? I thought when I saw him as. Setsuna paused and looked at Nimari for a moment, and she shook her head. Quote. I thought when I saw him in the lunchroom one day, that he would come and talk to me, but he never did. Setsuna changed what she was saying halfway through, but kept the meaning the same. She also did it without changing the story or lying about what she was going to say. Well, your name is different, though it is weird he wouldn't recognize you. He remembers every kid from the orphanage by memory. Oh, well, I was 7, and it has been a while. Setsuna defended Naruto for apparently not remembering her. Naruto was like a big brother for everyone in the orphanage, but since we were so close in age, I just never saw him as a brother. Me then when Sasuke came around, those two were always getting into fights, and it was up to me to stop their fights. Then Sasuke got adopted, and then I was adopted. Setsuna stated with a smile on her face as she fondly remembered the couple of times she ended up getting punched in the face for getting between the two of them. Nimari giggled a little. Naruto has changed a lot then. Actually, I think he hasn't changed at all. He's always playing his pranks and messing with people. Actually, Naruto is the same Naruto I knew as a kid. Setsuna laughed. When Naruto pranked everyone by knocking out the entire school and switching all of their clothes, it had been the funniest thing that she could have thought he would do. Of course, it was super embarrassing for her, that said, still funny though. Oh really? Nimari blinked in surprise. Yeah, can you help me reconnect with him? Every time I try, I'm a little afraid at how he will react to me. Setsuna wasn't sure if she should talk to Naruto. You know, the first time you came here and asked for my help training your quirk, I figured you were hiding something, and tonight when you visited again while Naruto was out, I thought you might have a crush on him. Is it that obvious? Quote. Oh youth. Nimari coughed into her hand after quickly gushing, before she smiled and pat Setsuna on the head. You know, I support this relationship. Childhood friends are such a nice thing, so what is holding you back? Nimari asked Setsuna, who blinked in surprise. You're not going to tell me to back off your son? Setsuna was sure that Nimari wouldn't approve, so she didn't mention her crush before she thought that she had been found out. She knew that her parents wouldn't approve of her having a crush on Japan's most well-known villain. You know, you going all mama bear on me? Setsuna questioned her further, and Nimari just waved her off. You're young, Naruto is too. If you two end up together in the end, then I'm just happy that he found somebody to love. If you two get together, and you don't stay together, then that will break his heart, and heartbreak is a horrible thing, but it will be a growing experience for him. I don't see why I shouldn't support you two. Nimari explained her reasoning. Yeah, if Setsuna was an older girl, or some freak, then she would totally go mama bear on Setsuna to protect Naruto. This wasn't that case. Setsuna was a normal girl, with a normal crush, and falling in love or getting your heart broken were both just a part of being young. Also, she was a teacher, she couldn't allow herself to beat up one of her students over something like this. The door opened up. Hey, I'm back. Oh, Tokage, you're here again. Well, I've got pizza for dinner, I'm sure we'll have some if you want to stay for dinner. Naruto was a little confused why she was at the apartment a second time, but he wasn't against her being there. She did seem familiar to him for some reason, but he couldn't put a finger on it. It was weird, but he didn't know any girls named Setsuna Tokage, so it was weird that she seemed personally familiar to him. He stopped thinking about it though. Oh, it's no big deal, my parents are out on business anyway. Bonk. Then stay and eat pizza, I'm going to go take a shower, my run has left me sweaty. You can stay the night, a girl doesn't need to go out all alone to an empty house, hero in training or not. Tonight you can take my bed, and I'll take the couch. Naruto bonked Setsuna on the top of the head hard enough to knock her head forward. Nimari nearly busted a gut laughing when she saw how casually he walked by her and did that. But, when I'm out of the bath, you better be done eating and ready to take one yourself. My pajamas will be a bit big, but they should fit you just fine. Naruto yawned again, before he cursed under his breath. Stupid weather, these dry spells of no rain are going to be the death of me. Naruto hated the weather they were having, since it hadn't rained in a while and today had been a real scorcher. While his toad quirk allowed him more freedom in dry weather than the frog quirk, his body was trying to coat itself in fluid in order to stay moist. It was killing him to try and hold back his quirk the entire day to avoid his poison leaking out with the mucus that would cover his skin. He needed a bath just to get rid of the aches that were building up in his body because of that. Nimari just giggled when she saw how Naruto treated Setsuna. Well, you didn't need to hit me. Yeah, well just looking at you, I can tell you won't listen to me without a bonk on the head. I'm serious, you better be ready for a bath when I'm out. Naruto stated to her with a deadpan tone as he left the room. Nimari and Setsuna shared a look. They both started to laugh. Geez, can't a guy just try to make a festival on time these days? He was running late, the sports festival would start for the most part without him there, but he needed to be there to compete in the first event if he were to qualify for the events that followed it. The best way to avoid being late, being Kurama, and skipping traffic. Today is your last day of villainy Kurama. Wow, new guy on the force. Can't really tell if this is a joke or not. Anyway, seems he can turn his body into chains. Naruto stated with a deadpan, under his breath as he dodged a dozen chains that tried to surround and restrain him. He could feel them before he saw them, making them useless as he jumped through the narrow spaces between the chains that attempted each attempt at capturing him. That, or this newbie wants to make a name for himself. Hey new guy, what is your hero name? Naruto asked as he grabbed onto the chain, and ran his finger along it. The man on the other end of the chain collapsed as the poison traveled through his chain, which was made of his flesh and blood, and went into his body. Goo, seriously, not even worth a hero trophy. Anyway, I've got to go. Naruto didn't bother collecting anything from the man, since he was mostly a no-name hero, more than likely a sidekick who was trying to score some hero points. Any hero who could catch the #1 villain would become a top hero for sure in society's eyes. -2 minutes later. Take my water spin. Naruto ducked as a spinning vortex of water shot towards him from the side, and he stopped traveling from car to car and landed on the road. Naruto saw a woman in a blue suit with yellow accents facing him, with one of her hands touching an exposed fire hydrant. It would seem that her quirk let her control water, but not create and produce it herself, making her quirk rather weak overall if her control was limited. The water vortex, like a boomerang, came back towards the source of water it came from, and Naruto gently stuck his finger in the water before the water reached the pro-hero and the poison inside of the water touched her skin. Nice quirk, but if you are required to touch water to control it, and it comes back to you, don't use it against a poisonous villain. Naruto sighed to himself in some annoyance as he lectured the hero about her horrible use of her quirk. She needed to make note on how he would just use her own quirk against her. He could still make it in time. -1 minute later. Seriously, today sucked. Okay, the fuck, I know I'm a sexy beast, but why am I being targeted by nothing but complete rookies that are sidekicks? You are the third one in like 9 minutes I've been traveling. Naruto stated as he was chased down by a swarm of locusts. The hero he was facing had the power to transform his body into insects, and Naruto would have loved to extend his tongue and freak the guy out, but that would be a pretty big reveal. Naruto jumped on top of buildings and made his way across several city blocks with this rookie hero chasing him by flight. Naruto gripped his own forearms, and dug his fingernails into his skin hard enough to indent, but not enough to bleed. Super move. Poison shower. With one smooth and lightning-fast movement, he separated his arms, and scattered the poison from his skin into the air behind him. The locust swarm was sprinkled with plenty of poison, and they started to move together as they took the form of a man in a costume that even looked like a locust. Naruto sighed in annoyance at showing off one of his super moves that he had spent so much time developing, and on a sidekick of all heroes. The poison shower had been his solution to using long-distance poison, and it made its premiere against a second-rate hero of all things. Okay, halt the heroics for a second, I'm late and don't have time for it. Naruto stated with a wave of his hand as he looked at his watch. He still had a good bit of time before the first event. -5 minutes later, are all the real pro heroes out or something? Naruto asked as he was surrounded by a group of sidekicks who were all in matching uniforms. Naruto had his arms crossed in annoyance as he tapped his foot. Around 20 sidekicks in total were around him and it was annoying that he was going to have to take them all down. The news was going to have a field day, and he would love to make a show of their defeat, but he really didn't have time for it. The heroes froze completely when they heard a humming sound. Super move. Toxic love. Naruto used his song very subtly as he hypnotized the sidekicks in the area into not moving their bodies, before he walked over to each one without breaking his humming, and touched them on the nose. They collapsed one by one, and Naruto stopped humming when he looked at all of the knocked-out heroes, who wouldn't remember hearing his singing voice. Naruto then proceeded to start to make his way back towards UA so that he could go about the sports festival like he planned. -15 minutes later. Ha 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 ha. Come on Kurama, let's see what is under that mask. I've almost figured you out. Mirko shouted loudly with excitement as she chased Naruto down. Naruto wasn't too angry about this one, since he knew how she moved, and even though she was faster than him, he would be able to avoid her attacks easily enough. At least I can keep moving, this won't mess with my time too much. Naruto thought as he dodged a kick from behind. He jumped and landed on the side of a building, before he launched himself off of it when she jumped at where he landed, and jumped after him. Mirko lost control of her body in midair and landed in Naruto's waiting arms. The fuck, how did you get me? You're supposed to kiss me. Don't have time, got a thing to go to, anyway, be careful where you touch. I put some of my poison on the building when I landed, knowing you would attack it and touch the poison. Naruto explained to her as he started to jump across buildings with her in his arms. Why the hell are so many sidekicks out today? Naruto asked her with an annoyance glance at the group of sidekicks that were already starting to show up. All the big name pros are watching the sports festival today, to see who we can apprentice under us. I don't do that crap though, I hate teamwork. So they are leaving their sidekicks to take care of threats. Mirko explained with a roll of her eyes. She would never be catch dead letting her sidekick punch villains for her, not that she had any sidekicks other than the ones who did her paperwork for her. She hated paperwork more than teamwork, so she hired a sidekick to take care of all of it. Also, you're groping my tit. Yep, you're groping my tit. You're right, I am groping it. It's a nice tit. Very firm and still very soft, not as soft as most boobs, but the firmness is a nice touch. Naruto explained to her as she sent him a deadpan stare for touching her breast, fondling her as he carried her. She wasn't even angry, she just wanted to point out what he was doing. Listen Bun Bun, I've seen you naked before, and here I thought you wanted to take a Kurama on a magic dick ride. Naruto asked her in a teasing voice. Mirko had foggy memories of something like that. How the hell did you erase my memories, and the other heroes who knew who you were? Poison. Duh, I just changed my poison to make it target certain parts of your brain, erasing memories of what my real name is. Naruto lied expertly as he threw her up into the air. Hey, she was caught by two sidekicks who stopped chasing Naruto to catch her, and the sidekicks collapsed when the poison on Mirko touched them. Naruto grinned to himself, since he used Mirko as a weapon to poison others this time. Sorry Bun Bun, maybe next time you and I can spend some quality time, guess I owe you 2 kisses then. Naruto laughed at her as he gave her his parting taunts. Minus 32 minutes later. 73 sidekicks. 4 pro heroes. Over the course of this one trip to UA's sports arena, he had been forced to take out 77 heroes in total who had tried to capture him. Today would for sure be known as Kurama's most active day as a villain for sure, if anyone were actually paying attention to that news instead of watching the nationally broadcasted sports festival. Naruto could feel his arm was a bit numb from overusing his own poison, so he would have to make sure not to use any more until his resistance to his poison was restored to full, otherwise he would end up losing the sports festival for sure. Looks like I'm in the clear, better not get caught sneaking in. Naruto finished changing into his gym uniform in the bathroom, and he hid his villain clothes in the air conditioning vent, since he was in the bathroom at the moment. He had snuck in very easily, but the fact that hundreds of stronger pro heroes were on grounds was very bad for him if he were to be seen as Kurama. Naruto left the bathroom stall to see Kamui Woods walking in. Good afternoon student, hurry up. Single quote ... Right, when I defeated Orochimaru, everyone he ate was released, and Kamui Woods was one of them. Bet MT. Lady is happy about that. Naruto grinned to himself as he passed the wood user. Right, hundreds of people who had went missing from many countries, over the past hundreds of years, had all been introduced to modern-day society again. Many had been returned to their home countries, and were placed into recovery units to help them deal with the massive mental trauma they went through. Being stuck in a literal living hell had to be tough for anyway, even Kamui Woods had only started active duty 2 days ago. I'm already late, what is the harm of a few more minutes? Naruto spoke in a lazy tone. The first event, a race around the stadium, starts in 3 minutes. Minus 2 minutes 21 seconds later. Where is he? Momo thought as she looked at the other students who were all at the starting line for the running course that was waiting for them. Since Naruto wouldn't be able to use his usual Kurama tactics, this would be a great time for her to pull a win over on him. She would expose him, or she would try to, but today was the sports festival. She wanted to have fun and grow stronger. Her focus wasn't on Naruto, but to say she didn't want to beat him was a completely different story. She wanted to beat Naruto as Naruto, to give herself the proof that she needed, that she had a chance of exposing him. No, she wanted to beat him, because he was her rival. As simple as that. Naruto better show up, we promised each other a rematch. Mina stated with a worried look of her own. She still felt sorry about how she pretty much bullied a normal dude into a fight, and kicked his butt, but after more than a month of training Naruto had to be stronger now. She needed this rematch to help Naruto and her own pride, since he lost to a girl in one hit, and she beat up a normal guy for no reason. Setsuna several meters away looked at her with a confused look. Why is the pink one concerned about Naruto? Anyway, where is he? There he is. Setsuna thought with a sigh of relief when she saw Naruto sneaking into the students, showing that he was very late for the opening ceremony, as in he literally missed the entire thing. Setsuna saw several girls take notice of Naruto, and her eyebrows furrowed in confusion. Wait, the genius girl from Class A and the pink one, both of them seem relieved. Do I have rivals? Setsuna really hoped that she didn't have any love rivals. Wow, did her Naruto, the big dork she knew since she was a kid, manage to get two beautiful girls to show interest in him? Wait, wasn't Mirko also super thirsty for Kurama, his alter ego? Wait, didn't he literally have a massive fangirl club that consisted of over 150,000 members all over the country, with those numbers still growing? Not to mention that Kurama was the #1 most popular villain, with general population approval ratings matching those of members of the top 10 themselves. That wasn't great for her. It meant that she really needed to work hard if she wanted to attract his attention to her. She would save her emotional baggage for later. The race was about to start. The race had started. The sports festival was just that, a sports festival where students could show off their quirks and the young heroes to really show what they were made of. So the race course was going to have a few good tricks to it that most courses wouldn't ever dream of having. It was a course worthy of getting Japan pumped up to see it, and this year, they had gone all out on the first event and made the very first part of the race interesting for all involved. Of course, there were clear leaders in the race. With Midnight. Yes, he's doing great. I didn't realize he was so athletic before. Do me proud, do me good and proud. Midnight whispered as she watched the giant television screen. She saw Naruto using his strong legs to jump over the starting crowd and take first place. He kept hopping as a couple of students ran behind him and kept a firm distance between them that didn't shrink much. In first place so far is our own Midnight's very own son, Uzumaki Naruto. Let's see what the adult-only hero was able to teach her child, and if he can keep his lead with Endeavor's son hot on his cold tracks. Hell yeah, he can do it. Midnight, realizing the secret was out, openly cheered for Naruto now as she raised her whip up. Quote. Wait, that's unfair. Midnight realized that somebody was using their quirk to create a massively unfair advantage. Todoroki had frozen the ground and a lot of students weren't able to continue running, but it was allowed by the rules to interfere with other students. With Naruto, this is a bit easy. I guess I don't have to worry so much about challenging myself. After over a year of running from heroes all the time, I've gotten faster. Naruto thought as he barely had to push himself to stay ahead of the pack. He was only using 60% of his full speed, a great chunk of speed, but by all means he wasn't pushing himself to really try. While heroes like Mirko were still faster than he was, it was his skill with the speed he did have that always allowed him to escape them. Well, after over 12 months of constantly running and getting good training against heroes, this wasn't hard for him. A robot army. The first challenge for students were to face off and run past a large-scale robot army, with some massive, building-sized, robots standing and moving towards them. Naruto's eyes widened for a moment. He grinned. He didn't hesitate. Away from UA. Well damn, this is pretty fun to watch, and damn does this kid have some serious talent. Mirko stated as she watched a TV, stopping by a store that had a TV playing in the window on the channel with UA's sports festival. Other heroes had stopped nearby as well, and many civilians were watching as the cameras stuck on the first place person. Well, it was Midnight's son. Wow. Usually it's a brat from the hero course who sticks in first place. It's never ever been a kid from the general course though. His moves. I feel like I've seen them before. Mirko said to herself as she rubbed her head in self-anger at not being able to recognize where she knew those moves from. She saw Naruto flip over a robot, doing a flip, while grabbing the robot's head and pulling it off. When a robot tried to attack him, he moved like a fluid fighter and evaded anything that got too close to him. When a robot fired a claw at him from behind, Naruto seemed to notice the attack coming at him from behind his very head. Oh, the kid is. He dodged that. The heroes were impressed when Naruto's feet touched a robot for a brief second, before he did a backflip while still going forward. He dodged the claw as it traveled underneath his flipping body, a grin firmly rooted to his face as he grabbed the moving claw and let it carry him at a greater speed for several meters. Well, that kid has fine reflexes. Even most pro heroes can't dodge attacks like that with no warning. It was like he sensed the attack was coming before it touched him. Just like Kurama, Mirko realized where she had seen similar moves to this. Like Kurama, this kid was moving without needing to see the attacks. He dodged them by experience and with the ease of a pro hero. He dodged them in a similar way to how Kurama dodged her when she attacked him from his blind spots. Like Kurama, this Naruto kid seemed to have no blind spots in his defense as he dodged every single robot. The students who didn't stop running got through the small robots, and were face to face with the giant robots. Endeavor's son froze a giant robot without an issue. Robots like that weren't a challenge for most pro heroes to take care of since gigantification type quirks were so common these days. It was par for the course, but she was surprised when the general studies student did something different. With Midnight. Whoa, I didn't know he could do that. Midnight whispered when she saw Naruto, on the screen land a jump on top of the large robot's head as another one made to attack him. Naruto jumped off of it just in time as the robot's head was punched, and it went flying while Naruto puffed himself up and slowed his descent to the ground. She hadn't expected him to actually defeat one of the giant robots. She figured the small ones, yeah, but not one of the big ones. Go Ni-chan. Now, Naruto and Shoto are the only contestants, and Momo creates a cannon to shoot down the last giant robot, and create a pathway for the other students to run. It seems these three students stand out far above the rest so far. With Momo. Naruto, I'll defeat you. The world might not know who you are, but beating you here will prove to myself that I have the potential to be better than the #1 villain. Momo thought as she smiled at the remains of the giant robot that had taken a cannon blast to the head, and fallen on top of all of the other robots underneath it. She stood among the only 3 students in the race to take down one of the giant robots with ease, Todoroki freezing one, Naruto manipulating one robot to defeat another, and she herself shot one to pieces. That put her on par with Naruto and Todoroki when it came to at least this feat of skill and strength. She was instantly surpassed as Bakugo fired off explosions from his hands and shot forward like a bullet, sick and tired of not being in first place that his anger exploded. She frowned deeply when she realized that the gap between her and her fellow students was still just as wide as it had been before. You think some general studies nobody is going to get first place, like hell. Die bastard. Die, was the common thought among everyone when Bakugo screamed as he moved forward like a jet. Of course, Bakugo didn't seem to plan on directly attacking Naruto or Todoroki, but he shot towards them as they got to the second part of the racing course. Powered by explosions, he was able to catch up to Naruto just as they reached a massive crater in the ground that had pillars of earth sticking up. The second part of the race, cross the crater by going from pillar to pillar, but either using your quirk or using the ropes attached to the pillars. Naruto jumped into the crater and grabbed a rope as Bakugo started to fly himself over the pillars. Since now Bakugo was his biggest competitor for the race, Naruto just grinned as he kicked the ground and shattered it enough to release the rope that was stuck in it. He kicked a second time and shot himself down into the crater. With the audience, Ni-chan, the orphanage children who had gotten tickets from Midnight were all screaming support towards Naruto, though he couldn't hear them. On the large TV screen, Naruto vanished as he disappeared in the darkness of the crater. Naruto. Midnight didn't know what to make of the move. It seems the previous first place Naruto has jumped down into the, and what an amazing move. On the TV screen, Naruto was shot out of the darkness like a cannon as he used the rope as a giant swing. He went flying through the air faster than Bakugo could keep up, crossing the entire crater in mere moments as he did flips and tricks for the cameras watching him. Other students were only starting to get to the crater, while Naruto, Bakugo, and Todoroki had all finished crossing it and were already running towards the next event. Damn, now that kid is good. How isn't he in the hero course? I know, he's got a real flair for being on camera. He's playing it up naturally, showing off his quirk, and even putting the students who trained for this to shame. Midnight could hear the heroes in the crowd talking to each other as her son gained the attention of everyone watching. Nobody was ever expecting a general studies student to put hero students to shame, even she didn't expect Naruto take the lead like this. It was really amazing, and made her really appreciate the training they did together. Naruto was putting what she taught him to use, and she loved to see him succeed. You go to the very top. Midnight thought proudly. Heroes watching on patrol. Which hero student is that? That's Midnight's boy, Naruto. He's in the general studies. I'm really interested in this. Looks like the kid had some serious potential. He moves just like Kurama does. Mirko explained to her fellow hero as she watched the TV with more interest than before. She should know what Kurama moved like, she fought him more than any other hero alive. His movements were something that she understood with her body and eyes, and these movements were so fluid that they just screamed a similarity to Kurama. This just shows that more people have the same skill level as that guy. That's pretty scary to think so many little bastards like that exist, huh? Mirko gave an excited grin at the very thought of it. So many people with that level of skill and potential were constantly being groomed, and as quirks evolved and got stronger, villains and heroes of each generation would get stronger and stronger. Older heroes were always being left in the dust by newer generations of heroes, and the same could be said for villains. Really, I don't see it. This student seems really serious, but Kurama is just some prankster. They don't have the same aura to me. Single quote. Blonde hair and blue eyes, those are similar traits to Kurama that he had under his hood. I have blurry memories of those. Mirko narrowed her eyes when she watched the TV screen. With Naruto. Danger. Naruto flipped through the air as he came across a sign that warned for a minefield. Naruto looked at the ground carefully, before he decided that he wouldn't be able to tell where the mines were so easily. They were non-lethal mines, but all the same they were meant to slow down the person who was in first place. Naruto closed his eyes and ran blindly. He heard an explosion behind him as Todoroki blew up one of the mines by running too close to him, and Naruto jumped to his left and landed on his hands. Hopping forward he flipped, and the second he landed he continued his momentum and flipped again forward even faster. He heard more explosions behind him, but he trusted his sense to tell him where he needed to go. He allowed his sixth sense to be his guide as he did nothing but hops and flips across the race grounds. The damn gap is getting even. Bakugo didn't even get to finish his thought before he stepped on a landmine and blew it up, stopping him in his tracks for a moment. He glared as the distance between himself and first place only got wider. Boom. Midoriya too, Todoroki questioned when Deku went flying off of a shield that had been strapped with landmines, getting ahead of him and Bakugo. He glanced behind himself as he ran, and saw many other students starting to catch up. The siren went off. Naruto Uzumaki has taken first place, and second by 6 seconds is Izuku Midoriya. After them, we have Shoto Todoroki and Katsuki Bakugo. Damn it all. Fourth place, behind a general studies nobody and Deku. Bakugo was already screaming death as he punched the ground. He didn't care if it was in front of the cameras, but after he talked a big game about coming in first, coming in fourth was the absolute worst for him. That wasn't even a silver or a bronze medal, he was in a loser spot now. Naruto was basking in the crowd's attention as they cheered for the first place winner for the race. Wow Naruto, that was amazing, I didn't realize the Toad quirk could get this great. You've really improved since you fought Ishido. Izuku walked towards Naruto with a wide smile on his face. Just happy to say hi to Naruto, though he was annoyed he himself didn't get first place. He extended a hand towards Naruto. Naruto didn't see a reason not to shake it. Well, I couldn't let Mina beat me again. Naruto still felt annoyed that for his cover, that he needed to be knocked out by Mina. That stain on his pride still stood pretty strong, and he hoped he could get a chance to get a little bit of revenge against the girl. You did pretty good, you came in second out of nowhere. Naruto complimented the surprise second place the teenager had gotten. He had expected Todoroki or Bakugo, who had stayed behind him for most of the race, and stayed pretty close behind him comparison to how most pro heroes chased him. Both Bakugo and Todoroki were on par with quite a few pro heroes at even this moment in time, but sadly, he was in a league above the average pro hero. Naruto glanced at Midnight, and she sent him a thumbs up. He nodded back to her. He got first place in the first event. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment and subscribe, as well as checking out the author on fanfiction.net.